Jennifer Lopez's career is in crisis mode. Jennifer Lopez is an accomplished woman with decades worth of work under her belt and millions of dollars beyond many people's wildest dreams, but her recent career endeavors have all been met with stark failures. From her most recent album, This Is Me Now, that chronicles her relationship with Ben Affleck, which wasn't a bad album, it was one note and generic, but I thought her attempt at making a statement as an album was palpable, and in that regard only, could it be argued to be amongst her best. Then the superfluous film that accompanied the album, which was all over the place. Props are given for the amount of effort put into the film, but ultimately it was just too incoherent to be compelling. And then the documentary that follows the making of the movie, which attempts to give a more personalized in-look on J-Lo and her making of the album, which too came up empty and cringe at times, with J-Lo's whole selling point essentially being that she still carries the mentality of being Jenny from the block, while trying to sell a $20 million movie that she funded herself. Sure, her dedication and ambition is admirable, but it didn't really land well with audiences and it didn't turn a new leaf for J-Lo. Also, I don't think the music itself is something that justified a movie. It's not intensely emotional, super personal, or reinventing the wheel of any kind, not even for J-Lo herself, given that it's just a by-the-book sequel to her previous album, This Is Me Then. The movie just kind of feels like an empty vanity project in that regard, created to try to make the music reach levels of depth that it doesn't reach on its own. Also, to be blunt, it's not 2004 anymore. No one cares about Ben Affleck and J-Lo as an item, like they used to. While I totally understand wanting to express finding love again in art form, maybe she shouldn't have made that the entire selling shtick for her era, because it seems like her and her team were really banking on people to be interested off of the strength of Bennifer. If anything, it's a wonder why J-Lo didn't lean back into dance pop music, given that the album coincided with the current resurgence of dance music, and dance music has always been where J-Lo gets most of her artistic grace from. But the trouble just doesn't stop with a failed movie and album, but also a less than stellar tour. With reports of dwindling sales and a rebrand as a greatest hits tour, she distanced herself from her most recent album. J-Lo never really took the time to cultivate a loyal following or intimate content to the degree of people like Madonna and Beyonce, for example. And as limiting as it may sound, the reality is it doesn't really make much sense for her to try to sell a super personalized experience through her music or art. Or better yet, it doesn't make sense for her to expect people to be invested in it because it's never been her appeal. She would have to do something really good to flip the narrative. And This Is Me Now was not it. Not to mention, the album and era entirely is convinced of its own greatness, while still remaining mind-numbingly surface level. I think it would have went over better if there just wasn't so much gaudiness surrounding everything. There were definitely many aspects of her era that felt super PR driven and not authentically personal in a way that maybe she wanted to connect with her audience on. Now there's reports of J-Lo's Vegas residency in its uncertain future, with the Post saying, J-Lo had been in talks with MGM Grand on a guaranteed $1 million a show for 90 dates starting next year, a source close to the situation told the Post. But casino executives had lately grown skittish over abysmal ticket sales for her first tour in 5 years, following the release of her album This Is Me Now, with poor demand having forced the cancellation of 7 shows this summer, the source said. Her recent movie Atlas was also met with abysmal reviews. It has just been back-to-back losses for Jennifer Lopez, and this is the moment in her career where she's supposed to be proud of her legacy. Now, I vehemently reject the idea that someone should retire just because they've gotten older, but I do think there comes a point when an artist is creatively bankrupt and just seems like they're trying to keep up. J-Lo seems to be in that currently. Jennifer Lopez is solidified in the industry, but she sometimes works and acts like she has something to prove. This era was clearly intended to be another moment in the sun for J-Lo, but has ended up being one of the worst phases of her commercial career. It was just announced that Jennifer Lopez canceled her tour. Representatives for Live Nation announced today that the Jennifer Lopez US Summer 2024 tour, This Is Me Live, is canceled, citing, Jennifer is taking time off to be with her children, family, and close friends, the announcement reads. J-Lo also put out a personal, specialized message saying, I am completely heartsick and devastated about letting you down. Please know that I wouldn't do this if I didn't feel that it was absolutely necessary. I promise I will make it up to you and we will all be together again. I love you all so much. Until next time. This entire era for her has just been a perfect storm of everything going wrong.